Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is The Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher. Great to have you with us. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you are watching the video version of the podcast or you're tuning into the audio version on the podcast platform of your choice, just want to say thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this thing that we call The Edge of Adventure, where we travel around the world each and every week, a new podcast every Monday night. And we travel around the world to get to know organizations that are doing amazing things, serving other people who oftentimes have otherwise been forgotten. And of course, we also get to know the people along the way, the people who live there in these regions, but also the people who have chosen to serve them, to come alongside them, and to love them. And today is no exception, of course. We're going to get to know another great organization. This one's called Ubora, and they work in Tanzania. And it's my privilege and pleasure now to introduce to you two members of their leadership. I've got on the line today Dave Burgess, who is the president, and also Leslie Sams, who works in operations and development. Let me welcome both of you to the program now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Great to have you with us. Let's start with you, Dave. Again, Dave Burgess is the president of Ubora. Let's talk big picture about your work in Tanzania. You guys focus on what?
We are a 501c3 that does work in a small area of Tanzania that's in the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro. We've been there 20 years, and really the mission started with Widows Relief. The area had been hit hard by AIDS in the 90s, and there were just a large number of widows in the area. And of course, their children too, who were left fatherless due to that disease that went through the area. So the mission started with that, and we have grown over the years and blossomed into a number of areas. Probably our deepest root is in education now. We have a school that we operate there that we have 300 children in the school. It's a primary school. And all of the children right now are sponsored by people here in the U.S. or generally outside of Africa. Then God has showed us needs beyond that. And so as we minister to these kids in the school, we can't help but run into other people in the village who need help in the areas of health and medical. We run into people in the village who need help with business. And then there's also family and general community projects. So God has just continued to show us need along the way. And I think the biggest thing about our ministry is that we've been blessed with resources and to meet those needs. And I don't mean just money. We've been blessed with all kinds of people with just an amazing amount of skills, amazing amount of contacts. And as God has shown us these needs in these other areas, we've been able to meet the needs through those blessings. And so, so today it's education, health, business, and community.
That's the voice of Dave Burgess. He's the president at Ubora. And we're talking today about their work in Tanzania, of course, in Africa. Also on the line today, Leslie Sams is with Ubora, and she focuses on operations and development. I know that's a big, two big areas, and so I know she's been involved as well for many, many years, both as a volunteer and in leadership for Ubora. So Leslie, let me ask you this question: as I have done some research, as I've gotten to know Ubora, my perspective on it is you all went to work in this region of Tanzania. You knew that there were these needs in particular that you were going to focus on, and then over time, your commitment and your love for the people there just grew that area of service farther and farther out. I mean, you guys are now doing so many different things, all a part of your overall investment in the people. That's my perspective from the outside. Am I on the right page?
You are definitely on the right page, Adam. You got it. We got into Tanzania in 2002. And from there, I think the biggest thing that we focus on are relationships. And through those relationships, we get things done. And the relationships have just gotten deeper and deeper and deeper over the years. And now these aren't just people that we go to serve. They are family members that we go to visit and love on and encourage. And so I think that's one of the things that makes us really special and makes Ubora unique, is those relationships.
And this is the Edge of Adventure. We're getting to know an organization called Ubora. And that's the voice of Leslie Sams. And also on the line, of course, we've got Dave Burgess. If you're watching the video version, you're going to get to see some pictures. And if you're not, if you're listening to the audio version, you can always go to theedgeofadventure.com, look for the post that correlates with this conversation, and you'll be able to see some pictures. You'll be able to watch, the video version, and you'll also be able to find links. Keep it easy. All those, the links to all their projects, because if they've got the main site, we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about a special project that they do each year, and we'll get into that. There's lots to cover. Dave, let's talk about the regions. Let's talk about where you work, okay? And you guys are the experts, not me. But again, I do some research here, trying to put this into perspective, both for myself and for the listening audience. You're working in a district called the Siha District, I believe, and the community is Karansi. Put all that into perspective. What's life like for this community?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll kind of use the travel into the area as a way to talk about this. Typically fly in from Amsterdam down to Africa, and as you fly in, you'll notice you'll see that you're coming into a really cool area. The village where we serve, Karansi, is nestled right in between two of the major mountains in Tanzania and in Africa in general. Mount Kilimanjaro is just to the north of the village. And another really cool mountain is Mount Meru, is just to the south. And we are smack dab in the middle, right between those two mountains. So the area it's not your equatorial jungle terrain. It's relatively high. There's about 5,000 feet. So it's semi-arid. As you go on one side of those two mountains, it's really dry. And then as you get into the village, it's a little bit more lush, as you can see in that picture. The area is mostly agricultural, lots of very small farms, subsistence farms of, I don't know, an acre or so or less, many small farmers on plots of ground like that. Growing things like maize. There's coffee grown in the region. Let's see where the other major crops. Beans are grown. And so it is a heavily agricultural area. The picture that we're looking at is a food silo that was installed at a public school near the school that we operate. Ours is a private Christian school. This silo stores grain so that the kids can have meals at school, which were not being provided by the government. So that's a general overview of the area. There are also major national parks. The famous Serengeti is to the west, and there's a few other national parks to the south, Tirangiri. So the area is just a really beautiful area, amazing countryside. And the village that we serve just happens to be a very, very poor, isolated village in the middle of all these really cool natural wonders.
Dave Burgess, president at Ubora, and also on the line, Leslie Sams. Leslie, I'll ask you then, since for the video version, we did have a picture up of the children, and I have to believe they're probably in their school uniforms there. And tell me about the school then, what you do with this school that you um, have and help to run, but not just what you do, but the difference that it's making in the lives of the children and their families.
Great question. So the school itself is a real beacon of hope for the village. When it first began, it was the vision of Pastor Warielli, and he was adamant that he knew that to lift this village out of the poverty that was in, the crime, the prostitution, the AIDS, all of that, a village of 1,300 people at the time, that the children would have to be educated, and they were not being educated. If they were going to school, they were going to school in a government school where teachers didn't show up. Students typically are in classrooms with no textbooks and often very crowded facilities, 60, 80, 100 children in a classroom. And so he determined that he wanted to start an English medium school, which means that all the teaching is done in English. So the students learn that. And as we know, English is, language of business in the world. So he knew they needed to learn English. And so he started this school, and it has grown and grown and grown. And we now have preschool all the way up to what's known as Standard 7, which is very similar to our grade 7 here in the US. And our students being sponsored get a school uniform, 2 meals a day, medical care. We have social workers who visit them in their homes and make sure their home life is stable and safe. And so as this has built up over time, again, it's just become this beacon of hope where people know that if their children can go to school here, that there's a real possibility for a good and secure future for that child and for the families.
Leslie Sams joining us today from Ubora. And Dave, and of course, as you guys know here, I'm tossing the questions back and forth. And if you're watching the video version, you see all three of us here on the screen. They were listening to the audio version, of course, wanting to get both perspectives, both Leslie's perspective and Dave's perspective, both in leadership and both caring so much about the organization and the people that they're serving. So, Dave, let's then, as I put two and two together, following sort of the thread of the conversation, we think about how it became clear that education had to be addressed. The quality education, good education, had to be to really fix some of the long-term problems. But Leslie also mentioned that these children receive medical care. Talk to me about the medical care, the health care aspect of what Ubora is providing for this community.
The country is plagued with a couple of problems in healthcare. One is that there's just a really low number of doctors and nurses per capita. I think the number here in the States, the number of doctors is, well, let me put it this way. At our church, we have 5,000 people. And if, prorating that out, we would have 75 doctors serving that sort of population. In Tanzania, that number would be less than 4. So just a huge problem with the lack of, the number of medical people. The other issue is the government. It's a developing country, and so the country has a lot of priorities. And the district has one hospital in it, and a number of dispensaries, smaller dispensaries spread out through the district. But the hospital was built, and there was zero equipment in that hospital. Incredible, good-sized facility, but literally no heart monitors, no beds even. This hospital has the capacity for around 250 beds, and they've got 30. And so people would come and not be able to get care. They didn't have any medicine. And so just generally, people didn't see doctors at all. And so one of the things that we're very happy and just so thankful to be able to do at our school is that we do have medical care that comes to the school a couple times a year to give them checkups, get them, follow up on issues that are found during those checkups, and then also give vitamins, and we provide 2 meals a day. So at our school, the kids are starting to get really good medical care over these years. And one thing we're trying to focus on now is to spread that out through the district. A couple of years ago, Leslie was Leslie led this initiative. We were able to, um, well, let me back up. Talking about the edge of adventure, every trip there's an adventure. And we had a mission trip going to provide care to the children at the school, and the medicine got held up in customs. And because of that, we were able to end up meeting all of the district medical people and learn about the need at that hospital. And again, through the blessings of our community here in the States, ran into a couple of organizations that provided medical equipment and medicine. And so in January of 2021, this year, we ended up sending over $2.5 million worth of equipment and medicine to that hospital, which was then distributed throughout the district. Some of the stories coming back are just amazing. There were women that had come in prior to that equipment getting there in childbirth, and they needed a heart monitor to see what was happening with the mother. And prior to that equipment, they didn't have that, and had to transport the mother to a different hospital. And very sadly, she ended up passing en route to that hospital that was quite far away. That very heart monitor that was needed arrived a few months later in that shipment, and has already saved 4 lives since it was put into service in January of this year. So those are the things that we're trying to do in the district, and the way God is blessing us to be able to do them.
Dave Burgess, president of Ubora, as we're talking about their work in Tanzania, in the Siha District, and in particular in a community called Karansi, and their loving commitment to the people of this community. We've talked about taking care of some of their physical needs, right? We've talked about educational needs. There's another aspect of what you all do, and I, this is my term, but it's helping them to develop businesses, right? And to when you think about the needs of a community and really making a difference, a long-term difference that can be sustainable and really help them to improve their lives, and then the ripple effect of them being able to help others and so on and so forth. A part of that is employment and people being able to work and have their own businesses, so on and so forth. Huge, important need. Tell me, Leslie, I'll ask this question of you. How does Ubora do that in this community?
Dave may want to share in a moment. He's just gotten back recently with one of the business agriculture teams. But in our village now, from a population of 1,300 to now estimated to be around 20,000, there's about 157 little dukas, as they call them, little shops that are no bigger than most people's hall coat closet, probably. And they all sell lots of different things. But these are people that have not had the opportunity to learn things like basic inventory skills, profit loss statements, how to use a calculator, how to make proper change, just other basic accounting types of things. And so when our first business team started coming in right before the pandemic in 2019, and began to do some of those trainings and teaching them how to use ledgers, how to calculate profit loss, simple things like don't hire a motorcycle to take you all the way into Arusha every single day to buy your inventory. Keep a list, do it once a week, twice a month. And they were just mind blown. They were like, oh my goodness, that's such a great way for us to cut down on costs. So it's just things that they haven't had the opportunity to be taught and to learn. And so these business teams and now agricultural teams are going in and just sharing things that they've learned and coming alongside them to help them improve their businesses. And we're seeing really, really neat changes going on there.
Today, we are talking about Ubora, their work in Tanzania. The name of the district is Siha, and the name of the community is Karansi. And for those that are watching or listening, and you think, well, give me an idea. If I were to look at a globe, you got to figure out where this is. You got to find Africa. From there, you find Tanzania. And then from what you guys are saying, it's not that far from Mount Kilimanjaro. So if you find that on a map, then you have a pretty good idea of the approximate location of this community. Child sponsorship, okay? That's an opportunity. That's a way that people back in the States or around the world can become involved and help support what you're doing. Tell me about the sponsorship program, and also tell me about these kids. I'll direct that first to Dave.
Okay. Oh wow. This is where I get excited. Um, yeah. So our sponsorship program, there's so many good people out there doing this sort of thing, and we just love everyone doing that. Um, ours we like to think is really intimate. We start sponsoring the children in kindergarten at 3.5 years old. Um, we've set up a lot of facilities so that you can get to know your child. Uh, we do, of course, letter writing, lots of video calls, and typically before COVID, we'll do probably 15 or 20 trips a year. And if you go on a trip and you have a sponsor child, you will absolutely meet the child. You will go to the home, meet the parents, and really over the years, we encourage sponsors to get involved with their child, and we've learned that as these children move through the educational system and move from primary school into secondary school, it really matters if there's a strong relationship with that sponsor. It's a critical thing. The children, they view you as another parent, and so when they go off to secondary school, which in Tanzania means basically like us going to college. It's very typically very far from home. They live there. They're boarded at the school. So we've got kids in seventh grade essentially going off to college and living alone in a dorm. And so if there's that strong relationship with a sponsor back in the States, in addition to their parents, and we work with the parents as well, that child really does want to do well and make that sponsor proud and make the sponsor glad that they got them through primary school and now support them in through secondary school. It's a really unique program. I think for me, the thing where I had started out my involvement with Ubora as the typical dumb dad. I wrote the check, and we had 3 sponsored children, one for each of our children. And I would stick my head in on a Zoom call every once in a while or write a letter. But my first trip there was where I fell hook, line, and sinker. The way the trip goes is, you go from Atlanta to Amsterdam and then down. And the first thing we do when teams get there is we'll go visit the children, usually on a Saturday. And so I did that and got off the plane. I was still foggy headed, jet lagged. And we make our way into my to Reinhard's house. The pigs were here, and his bedroom was about 10 feet from the pigs. We go into his bedroom, and there's nothing on the walls, dirt floor. And I look on the wall, and there's a picture of my son that we had sent a couple of years back, and it was really mind blowing to find myself in the middle of Africa and the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro in some little room, and there's a picture of my son. And it hit me then just how important sponsorship was to Renard. It really meant a lot that he had a sponsor. He didn't care about the $49 a month, but he cared that he had a sponsor and someone loved him somewhere else in the world. And so that to me paints the picture. It is a really intimate sponsorship program. We know our kids, we love our kids, and many times sponsors will follow them all the way through college and beyond. I know Leslie does with her sponsor child, Moses, as he's now in medical school. So it's a deep relationship, and that's kind of what we're all about, is going really deep like that. And we feel that's the way we can help the most. And honestly, it's how we get helped the most. We learn so much in those relationships over the years with our sponsor kids.
This is the Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher, of course, and today we've got two guests on the line, both of them joining us from an organization called Ubora. They work in Tanzania. As we've been discussing, we've got Dave Burgess, the president. We've also got Leslie Sams, who is over operations and development. They're both on the line today. We're talking to both of them. And of course, that was the voice of Dave Burgess. If you're watching the video version, now I've got a photo on the screen that talks about the school motto. It's a great photo. I probably can't do it justice if I were to try to describe it. But you see the cute little faces above this wall, and on this wall, there's the words painted school motto. And then underneath it says striving for excellence by developing servant leaders. Couple of things. We'll start with you, Leslie. Let's talk about that word excellence. I think the word excellence is significant in this motto. So tell me where the why the word excellence is important. And then secondarily, talk to me about what it means to be a servant leader.
Ubora, your listeners may be wondering, how in the world did they come up with that name for their organization? It actually is the Kiswahili word for excellent or excellence. So, because it's what we strive to do every day in our work here stateside and with our partners in Tanzania, we thought it would be appropriate to have that as our name. So, we definitely want our students to also strive for excellence. They don't need to be perfect, but they do need to try their best and be excellent in what they do in their schoolwork, at home, in their relationships and friendships. And then to become servant leaders, we really believe as a faith-based organization that we need to model the example of Jesus, who was the ultimate servant leader. He was definitely a leader. He commanded a room, and he's definitely in charge. But he was a servant as well. He served people. He served them well. And of course, as we know, he served them to the point of dying on the cross for them. And so we really want our students to also understand that leaders don't lord it over people. They don't hang things over people's heads and lead with trying to institute fear in the people that are following them. Leaders who are leading the way that they should and leading the way Jesus led are ones who serve the people under them in an appropriate way and in a way that brings out the best in those people as well. So that's what we're trying to do with our kids at the school.
Dave, let's talk about two key words. And I got these words and these concepts, these ideas from the research as I get to know Ubora before I come to these conversations. But there were in my notes, I wrote down two key words that seem to be important to you guys: wisdom and humility.
With regard to wisdom, it's not something that you can, there's no step-by-step process of how do I become wise. And we believe that wisdom comes from more of a character trait, and knowing what to do in those situations that where everything isn't prescribed. And so for us, that does mean following the model of Christ, and humility is just the most important part of that. If you come in and to a situation, and we always try to go, when we go there, come in not taking the posture that we know everything, because we don't. And so if it weren't for humility, this mission would have been in trouble a long time ago. And so we know that is key. Being humble and following Christ as a servant leader is key to this mission. Otherwise, our pride will get in the way. It will be all about us, and that just would not last. I think the Pastor Warrielli, who is the founder of this mission, he was the pastor who we met 20 years ago. He's made the statement that he knows that we love them because we keep coming back, and we keep coming back, and we're welcome there only because we really hope that we focus on Christ-like humility. It would just not work if we didn't do that. Just wanted to say the word about the excellence too. There's a feeling in the village. It's a small village, and there's definitely the underdog feel. It's small, but the people can want to be and can be excellent. There's a really great feeling of hope there now, and just you can tell that the folks they are just striving for excellence. You go to a secondary school out in the countryside, and those kids are eager to learn. They are ready to go, and it's just so inspiring to see that, especially as I don't know. Sometimes in our society these days, you don't see that as much, and it's just a blessing to be able to go in there and see these kids who want to excel and want to do their best, and they know it's their way out, and we're privileged to be a part of that.
That's Dave Burgess, president at Ubora. As we've mentioned, Leslie Sams is also with us today. Leslie, we have talked about um, of course, we know that people listening, watching, people in the States and around the world can support you guys financially, and they can learn more about the organization by going to uboratz.org. Okay, uboratz.org. And again, we'll have all the links on theedgeofadventure.com, and we'll also put them up on the screen here. But thing I wanted to go to next is, other than financial giving, which is super important, other than coming alongside and wanting to sponsor a child, and which is a financial gift, it's also a relational gift. As you guys are talking about how it needs to be something where you, as the donor, you're giving the money, but you're also standing by this child long term, because the story of your son, Dave, and the picture of your son showing that they're in the village, that child feels like they're a part of your family. And that's such a valuable, important bond. Okay, but other than those, and those are super important, are there other ways to volunteer, to go, to serve? Talk to me about other opportunities that might exist.
Well, because we have these really 4 other impact programs besides the child sponsorship of health, business, community, and education, we have a great need for volunteers, both stateside and over there, to go. But stateside, we have events that we do that we would love to have volunteers help with. There's opportunity to help sort the child sponsorship gifts and record keeping type of things. So if going over on a trip isn't something that someone is able to do at this time, there are still other ways they can lend their expertise. I know the business team is looking for a couple of new members who could come into that group and offer up ideas. And same with education. Education is growing over there. We are wanting to reach out into the public schools of the area. And so we need more teachers on our education program team so that we can begin to have new and fresh ideas. And then, of course, as you mentioned, going on trips. We are going to be doing trips in 2022. And we just had our first team trip since the COVID shutdown. So we're trying to ramp back up. Normally in a year, we do go 15 to 20 times. Different groups go over there. And so serving here, going over there to serve and help, and then praying for us, and then just getting the word out. Get on our Facebook and Instagram and share that, and like us, as they say, like us on Facebook and Instagram, and just help us get the word out about what we do. Because now that we are growing so much, and it appears that God is asking us to do a lot more things, we need more people involved in lots of different ways.
Maybe I could flesh out too, mention the hospital bed situation at the hospital there. Quick example. So we reached out to people looking for beds So that involved a number of different doctors and nurses. We ended up finding the beds. They're in Tennessee. We're in Atlanta. And so we ended up getting logistics people involved to help figure out how to get the beds, these 31 beds, from Tennessee to Atlanta. And then we have a team going up. We're doing a road trip, good old fashioned road trip going up to Tennessee. There's a group of guys going up to disassemble the beds, package them, and then get them loaded into an 18-wheeler. Back to Atlanta, and then the logistics people take over and figure out how to get that onto a shipping container to the port of Savannah, and then over to Tanzania. So there's all kinds of people involved with that. Like I said, from doctors and nurses in terms of evaluating the beds, to business people figuring out the best way to do this, to logistics people. So whatever your skill set is, there's a good chance that we can use it in one of these projects or another. And it's just really rewarding. It's a way to use your giftings that God has given you and really have an impact. If you're stuck in a cubicle farm at work and need an outlet to make a true impact on someone's life, that's a way to use your skills to do that.
One of the things that I say frequently, both on the podcast and the other aspects of the Edge of Adventure platform, is I talk about this idea of going beyond status quo. And we get stuck in our daily lives and we're concerned about just the day in and day out routine. And oftentimes, right? Maybe not for everybody, but for many of us, over time, that kind of wears down on you. And you think that there's gotta be more than just what I'm doing day in and day out to survive, right? And just go through the routine, do the things I do every day. There's gotta be more. And eh, and there is more. So the kinds of opportunities that you're talking about, even as simple as coming alongside you guys and saying, "Hey, I'm in the Atlanta area. I could help you out in this way." It's just those small steps that really begin to turn your life into a bigger adventure than what maybe you are currently living. So my admonition to anybody listening would be, get involved somehow. Maybe you think that your skill set's not that big of a deal. Then you'd fall into a category like me, and you'd be like, "What do I know how to do? I just know how to do this." But chances are, whatever it is you know how to do can be used, and when you begin to serve other people with it in some way, you're going to see your life come alive. So my encouragement, and maybe that you would feel called today to do something with Ubora and the work that they're doing there, and then all the work behind the scenes here in the States. Let's talk about a project that you have planned coming up in the months ahead. This is going to involve some climbing. Leslie, tell me about this.
Well, we've got a couple things. We have our annual fundraiser called Climb Kili, and it's a virtual climb of Mount Kilimanjaro. So not everybody can get themselves over there and actually climb that mountain. So we thought it would be fun that instead of doing the typical virtual 5K fundraiser, 10K, that we would do a virtual climb of Mount Kilimanjaro. So you have the whole month of February to reach the summit, and you can choose your route. You can go extreme. You can do just halfway up the mountain, but you have the whole month to get to the top of the mountain or as far as you wish. And the registration fee is $50, but right now there's still the early bird special of $45, and comes with a t-shirt, and you get to interact. There's an interactive map so that as you climb the mountain virtually, you can actually see real pictures of what it would look like if you were on the mountain. So you could see, oh, I'd be at this base camp, or I'd be on this path. So that's really fun to do. And the way that we also encourage people, you can run it, you can walk it, you can climb it, and you can roll it. My daughter, who uses a wheelchair a lot, she can't run it or walk it that far, but she rolls it in her wheelchair. So anybody can participate. We've had sweet little elderly couples in their assisted living walking the halls, And then we've had people who are major runners who have been going all out on the extreme. So you can get information on that on our separate website, climbkili.org, or you can just go to our regular website and there's a link there as well. But then also we do have the real climb of Mount Kilimanjaro, also another fundraiser opportunity where people can come with us and climb the mountain in July of 2022. And we are going to have a website where people can have people pledge, a penny a foot or $1 a mile, however they want to do it.
Again, that website, if you are listening and you want to check that out, go to Climb Kili, which is Kili, climbkili.org. And of course, they've got on their website, they've got a link to that information as well. Big project coming up in the months ahead, days ahead. UboraTZ.org. UboraTZ.org. Leslie, I know that you've been involved many years. Just from my research, I think you've been officially in leadership now for several years, but before that, probably a decade plus, you were involved as a volunteer, that sort of thing. How have you seen? Well, no, I'm going to ask you two questions because you've been working in Africa for a long time. Okay, how have you seen Africa change and the work that you're doing there in the community in Karansi? How have you seen Karansi change now that Ubora has been working there for so long?
I don't know that I can speak to how Africa as a whole has changed, but our little corner of it has definitely seen change. And we have board members who have been involved since day one who could really tell some stories. My first trip was in 2010, and on one of the teacher mentor trips. My previous life, I was a middle school science teacher, so that's how I got involved, going over and mentoring science teachers. But when I first got there, very much, it's so hard to explain. Africa is very, very beautiful, but there is a lot of poverty. And so I think when I first got there, it was clear that there were a lot of issues that needed to be addressed. And there was the feeling that nobody really knew what to do about those issues. And now I feel like there's more of a sense of, well, we know we have some issues and we've learned how to address a lot of issues, and new issues that come up, I feel like they might be a little more equipped now to deal with them, as they've learned maybe problem-solving skills from things that we have brought and taught. So there's just a real sense of, I think, hopefulness now from that hopelessness that they may have had before. And so much of it is education. And I know that viewers that are listening, or people that are listening and not viewing, can't see the picture that's up there right now, but that it's just my heart. So these are my two kids, and Moses, my husband and I started sponsoring Moses when he was in 4th grade, and he was kind of withdrawn. He didn't smile very much, had some things going on in his family that were tough. And our relationship over the years has just deepened and deepened. And now he's in his 2nd year of medical school in Dar es Salaam, and just a quality 21-year-old young man who I absolutely adore. And he calls me mom, and I love it. And then our second child is Precious, and she lives up to her name, hook, line, and sinker. And she is going to be in class 3, in grade 3, beginning in January. And we started sponsoring her when she was in preschool. So I look forward to a similar relationship with her. So I think, going back to your question of how it's changed, the hopelessness that was there before has certainly transformed, and not just because of Ubora. Certainly not. I mean, we all know that it's because the Lord did his work there, but the things that we've been able to share with them and assist them with and teach them and encourage them in have just brought a level of hope that is now bearing fruit in physical things. And hey, we do want to fix this road because we really want to take pride in our village. Just things like that.
That's Leslie Sams joining us today from Ubora. Also on the line, Dave Burgess. He's the president, and Leslie helps to guide operations and development and so many other things. Both of these individuals love this work and they love people. And it has been great to have you both on the show. I know we're just scratching the surface. I know there's still so much more, but as we wrap up today's episode, as we sort of draw it to a close, I want to ask Dave a question regarding something you just talked about. You talked about despair and hope and hopelessness and these things. And Dave, what's the key to that? I know it's not as simple. This is you guys are what you're doing is a lot of work. This is a very involved projects. But what's the theme that must run throughout all of it in order to really turn a person's despair to hope?
To me, it's a three-part answer to that. Some time ago, when I was getting into this role, I was doing reading about missions that had done well and had really helped an area to become sustainable. And a phrase stuck with me about a mission in Uganda, and it went something along the lines of, I've seen a lot of toilets, terraces, and tomatoes be built, but there's nothing like seeing the gleam in the eye and the tenor of the voice of someone who's been transformed by the combination of Jesus, hope, and self-development. And so, to me, that rang so true. It's Jesus. We've got to lead with that to help us know and to help them know that Christ loves them. That despite their plight, and they acknowledge that they're in a tough spot. There's often drought. There's often too much rain. Crops don't come in. Despite that, though, they know that Christ loves them. The second piece is hope, and that really comes from, I think, folks coming in to give them help, and realizing that, okay, Christ loves me, and someone is helping me. So Christ is working through someone to solve a little bit of a problem that can help me get over the hump. It can give me that little bit of hope, whether that's a silo at a public school to give the kids lunch, whether that's a little bit of healthcare, or whether it's education, just something to get them out of the dire need that they're in, the acute, relief type needs. And then that third piece to me is self-development. We call it building capacity. Everything we do, we try to come alongside and work with our friends and our brothers and sisters there to figure it out together. We've been blessed with certain resources, certain experiences that we can share and help them grow and learn those, even if they're in a small village in the middle of a very isolated spot in Africa. So to me, it's those three things: Jesus, hope, and self-development is what really is raising that village up. And it's just what we keep trying to ring year after year, and make sure we touch all of those pieces every time we go.
Leslie, as we wrap up the show here, what might be your word of encouragement for the listeners, for the viewers? Keeping in mind, of course, we've all come through a very difficult time, all of us worldwide, a very difficult time. There have been so many people represented in my listening audience who have suffered in some way, lost in some way, and oftentimes it's even been a loved one. What's your word of encouragement to the people today?
I think one of the most significant decisions that I've made personally, because I would never presume to tell people what they should do, because, like you said, I'm not in their story, I'm in my story. And I might want to come along and read part of their story and join in it, but I can't tell people what to do. But I know what's helped me is that in the midst of all that has gone on in the world, I mean, this was a pandemic that quite literally shut down the entire world. And as I've moved through it and continue to do my work in Tanzania, either from here or even going over there, which Dave and I were able to do a little bit, even in 2020. Um, I think the biggest takeaway that I've had is that I cannot live in fear, and I need to I need to continue doing what I feel called to do and to walk in it in wisdom and not foolishness, but definitely not walk in fear and not let something like the pandemic keep me from living and living a life of purpose, living a life of adventure. Um, and I just turned a certain age. Oh, and I'm telling you, I am not going to let it stop me. I want to keep living and walking in that sense of adventure and purpose. So I would encourage people to not allow what's happened in this last year and a half plus to isolate you, but to encourage you to continue to look outside yourself. And I think that's where a lot of healing is going to happen for a lot of people, is as they reach out to serve others and get back into a habit of community, then a lot of healing will take place that we've from the damage that we've all experienced of being so isolated.
Well, Leslie, first of all, happy 20th birthday. Okay.
Oh, thank you. I'll send you a check later.
I was going to say 30, so you beat it.
I'll take. I might not want to do 20, but 30 be okay.
Okay. By the way, same. So, hey, listen, both of you guys are awesome. It's been great to get to know you a little bit and get to know the organization. Dave will have you answer the final question here, just in case we've missed anything or anything you want to be sure to communicate on behalf of Ubora, and just your final thoughts as well as you speak to the audience today. And again, thank you both for coming on the show.
Echoing what Leslie said, this and what we've been talking about the whole podcast, to me, everyone has something to give, and I think we all want to make an impact on this world. And I just encourage everyone to get out there and try to do that, whether that's here with Ubora or wherever. We all have so much to give, and we just need to step out, as Leslie said, in faith, and just really make that impact that is so rewarding to your life. There's so many things that we try to do and chase that really aren't that rewarding, but I've had the privilege of being on many adventures in my life in terms of travel. And I can tell you that this one is the most rewarding by far. And just seeing the impact on people's lives, and that's what really counts. And Adam, I just love what you're doing, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your show.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot, and really honored to have both of you guys on the show, to now count you as friends, and you're stuck with me now. Okay. And my guests today have been Leslie Sams and Dave Burgess, both of whom are joining me from Ubora. For more information, you need to look them up online directly. You can go to uboratz.org. Now, Ubora is spelled Ubora, Ubora, and then the letters tz.org. And also, they've got climbkili.org for their event coming up very soon. Climbkili.org, and that's you can participate in that not just by going, but you can also do that from home and do so virtually. And I think that's a pretty cool idea. So look that up as well. Climbkili.org for more information. And as always, you can go to theedgeofadventure.com, look for the post corresponding with this conversation, and you'll find all the details you need, all the links, all in one place, kind of quick and easy there. So you can make sure to track them down. My encouragement to everybody listening is if you feel like this has struck a chord with you and you want to get involved and you don't let that urging pass you by, you should be obedient to that and do so. And also, if nothing else, connect with them, encourage them, and learn a little bit more about them. And just any way you can encourage and come alongside them, I'm sure will mean a lot. So, again, thank you to everyone watching and listening, and to my two guests today, Dave and Leslie. You're both awesome. Thanks for doing what you do, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.